welcome to the inaugural edition of Who's Who Arizona Wahoo! The Wahoo is just for fun. I cannot think of a better guest to kick off Arizona Who's Who Wahoo than Russ Kazmierczak Jr. Here I am thinking I'm the only person who has created a YouTube show devoted to spotlighting the creative genius that resides in the Valley and here in Arizona. Oh no. I find out that there is a show called Phoenix Tonight that is doing just that in a late night talk show format, whose host is, you guessed it, Russ Kazmierczak Jr. Not only is he a late night talk show host right here in the Valley, but he is also a comic book creator, and his comic book, Amazing Arizona Comics, is devoted to Arizona stereotypical characters. It's all about Arizona politics and culture. Stick around to hear Russ's thoughts on his late night show, comic book creation, and the 24-hour comic book challenge that he has a YouTube series on. You do not want to miss this show. Hi creatives, welcome back to my channel. My name is Skyla King, host of Courageous Creatives, the YouTube channel that elevates you to your highest self using inspiration, education, courage building, and community. Today is the very first edition of Who's Who Arizona Wahoo. I do a feature of motivational speakers and leaders in Arizona. I also do a Fashion Friday feature where I talk about the fashion scene in Arizona and abroad. But I was meeting really cool people who were not in the motivational space, not in the fashion space, and I still wanted to interview them. So I created Who's Who Arizona Wahoo so I could talk to anybody I wanted that was super cool and doing something neat in Arizona. If that sounds like something that you would like to keep track of, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so you never miss a video. The reason that this video is so long is because Russ is that cool. He has so many cool projects and he has a lot of insight about being a prolific and creative person. Let's check it out.
My name is Russ Kazmierczak Jr. I'm the creator of Amazing Arizona Comics, the host and producer of Phoenix Tonight. Well, I self-publish Amazing Arizona Comics, which is a mini comic book that satirizes Arizona news, history, and culture with superhero adventure. So stories are inspired by real aspects of Arizona news or culture, Arizona living. Do you like reading crudely drawn, poorly written stories about living in Arizona? Well, then I got the perfect comic book for you. But my comic book is called Amazing Arizona Comics, so you might as well just read that one instead. It stars local superheroes like Speed Cameron, June Monsoon, the Dust Devil, Snowbird, and any other Arizona living pun you could think of that I could turn into a superhero. They star in my book, Amazing Arizona Comics. You can find it on Instagram at AmazingAZComics. You get it. They're all Arizona puns that are also superhero names with powers such a name would imply. I also host Phoenix Tonight, which is the Valley's live local late night talk show. You can see it at Space 55 every month. Hey, do you love watching second takes? Well, then I have the perfect show for you. It's called Phoenix Tonight. It's the Valley's live local late night talk show. You can see it every month at Space 55 or on YouTube at Kazbro Productions. That's K-A-Z-B-R-O Productions. It's my YouTube channel. I film it, my brother edits it, it's an amazing partnership. It started in the womb, 4 years apart, but still destined to be a success. I host Phoenix Tonight. It's a live late night talk show. I have guests that sit on a couch while I sit behind a desk, and I ask them questions. We share anecdotes and jokes, and then you watch it on YouTube. Dozens of people watch it on YouTube, so I hope you'll find us there at Kazbro Productions. I interview local creatives in the traditional talk show format. Just as Johnny Carson had intended, I sit behind a desk and make wry jokes as people talk about their passions and ways they implement their own creativity in the Valley. Well, there are a couple of major reasons why I've decided to host my own late night talk show in the Valley. First, I'm a big fan of late night talk shows, from Johnny Carson to Letterman, even to Carson Daly. I just love the format and everything it represents. Cut to several years later, I'm on the patio at Copper Star Coffee, one of the Valley's best coffee shops, if not the best, and I overhear people several days in a row as I frequent there, talking about how there's nothing to do in Phoenix. What are we going to do, go to Old Town again and drink and fall out of golf carts and maybe appear on Girls Gone Wild 34? So they're musing about, what are we going to do tonight? And it just frustrated me because I have so many creative friends, folks that draw comics, slam poets, again, bartenders, chefs. I know these people are on the Valley, and I thought, gosh, if these folks only knew them too, they'd have an endless amount of things to choose from on any given night during the week or on the weekend. So I thought, why not offer a show where all of these people could come together? What kind of format would suit a poet, a band, a talk radio personality, Arizona's hippest historian? Where can all of these folks come together and it would make sense? And the late night talk show is that very format. So the 24-hour comic challenge was started by Scott McCloud in the early 90s. He and a buddy basically dared one another to draw a 24-page comic book in 24 consecutive hours. And so since then it's become something of a phenomenon. Artists all over the world participate in the challenge every year. I've done it myself for the past 3 years. It's a lot of fun. It is a challenge, as the name entails, but when the day is over, ideally, you've completed a comic book. Last year was Jack Kirby's 100th birthday year. He would have turned 100 had he lived. Jack Kirby basically created almost everything in my room. Jack Kirby's a big deal. He created a lot of things that people know, household names. And I thought for his 100th birthday, why not celebrate with something as extravagant as the man's own imagination? Why not gather some of my friends that I admire, that do what I do, make their own comics, and they could attempt the 24-hour comic challenge in the spirit of Jack Kirby. So that's what I did, and I recorded the whole thing. 24 straight hours have boiled down in the editing room after a lot of arduous work to about 40 minutes worth of usable footage. And that's become a mini-series that's been on YouTube. Short episodes, 5 to 8 minutes apiece. It's great. It's great to see my friends kind of struggle with their work a little bit, get outside of their comfort zone, because therein the true talent reveals itself. And the 4 artists that are in this series with me, Birdie Birdashaw, Derk Harron, the Janimal, and Zoe Sugg, they're amazing, and I'm glad that we're doing it also in the spirit of Jack Kirby. I had a definitive moment where my dad sat with me at the kitchen counter and said, you know what, if you're going to draw, let me just show you a few quick things. And he did. He showed me a little bit about proportion and anatomy and perspective. It was maybe a 15-20 minute tutorial, and that's what I've gone off of ever since. I've had no other training. It's really just been that 15 minutes at the counter. That's how I know a body's like 8 to 10 heads tall or something like that. My earliest memory of drawing, I actually have it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So the first comic I ever completed is this hardcover Masters of the Universe fan comic. At the time, Masters was spelled without an E. It was a very brief period in the franchise's history where Mattel decided, you know what, who needs an E? But 5-year-old me was able to spell universe, so that's impressive. It's He-Man versus the Monster, because anybody that knows anything about He-Man knows it's not just a monster, it's Monster. And herein you could see Prince Adam walking in the woods. Skeletor suddenly appears, and as in every episode of He-Man, Prince Adam holds aloft his magic sword and says, by the power of Grayskull. Then he becomes He-Man. He has the power. At that time, Skeletor, smiling slyly, calls forth the Monster. And, well, I don't want to spoil the ending. This was the first comic I ever completed, and the pages are worksheets from school folded in half to create blank drawing pages. This is why I'm not good at math. This is what I did with those workbook pages. I ended up making a comic book out of them. And I just never stopped drawing, that's all. I've received a lot of support from my parents, and I think that's evident in some small part in the toy collection. I always refer to the toy collection as the tangible proof that my parents supported my obsessions. One, because we never got rid of anything. We never had that definitive garage sale where G.I. Joes go for a nickel a piece. When we moved from Connecticut to Arizona, the Masters of the Universe collection moved with us. And to me, that was, even then, impressionable. They wanted the consistency of the things I liked to travel with us. He-Man came with, Batman and Superman and Spider-Man came with. So that's very important. I know if I had said, I want to draw comic books for a living, or I want to host a DIY talk show for a living, I never got the impression they would have said, are you out of your mind? Are you crazy? Get a real job. It just never would have happened. They always supported everything I did, if not vocally, then with silent love. I'm not hearing the hum of the electricity, but the light's on. That's kind of how I think of my parents' support. My brother does a lot of the editing, so I said, why not just, I should probably mention him as far as people that support me. Can I actively appreciate someone? I'll do that. Can we go back over there and do that? Then you could just cram that one in, because he'll be like, what the hell, man?
We'll just put that part in.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, that's fine. No, that's perfect, actually. How fear has played a role in my creative life. That's a good question, because I'm trying to think of fearful moments. And I'm the kind of guy that experiences ramifications in retrospect. In other words, the nerves don't hit until the performance is over. And then there's a lot of self-critique. I guess the fear is impactful in that way, like proactively going into a project, going into the drawing of a comic or a monthly episode of Phoenix Tonight. The fear is that when it's over, I'll be dissatisfied. That's how I experience the fear. Getting in front of a small group of people and performing isn't a big deal. Drawing for thousands of people at a Comic-Con, singing karaoke for people in a bar, there are very little, I shouldn't say there are no nerves, because I'm not a god, but there are very little nerves there. It comes after. So I guess that's the fear of disappointment, is what I'm analyzing. And disappointing myself, disappointing others, not fulfilling my own expectations, and ultimately just creating blah. I find comfort in that because I recently listened to a podcast interview between Alton Brown and Jet Tila from the Food Network. And Alton and Jet were talking, and Alton said something that struck me. He said, you know, I'd rather be original than good. If he had to choose between being good and being original, he'd rather be the original guy. And I think that tempers my fear a little bit, because as long as I'm the only guy making the kind of comics I make, as long as I'm the only one hosting a late night talk show, it doesn't have to be a fantastic production. In the end, though, I will be the one that did that thing, that made that offering. And as long as that sets me apart from other creative types whom I admire, that just makes me the guy that did that. And I could take pride in those ideas versus the idealistic implementation I hope they had.
Are you in love?
Yes. With Randi, or? Because, yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I answered it pretty quickly. Did you hear that, babe? And I didn't say with what. My relationship with Randi has actually proven that if you're in love, it gives you focus with the other things you love and that you're passionate about. If you have people around you that support you, you can do anything. And the greatest gift she gives me is the time to get this crazy stuff done. And then the support I need afterward. If anybody will tell you I'm self-critical, it's her. But if anybody will tell you that I'm out of my mind about that, it's also her. I think we feed off each other in that way. Depends on my mood. A couple of things. One, you should never stop doing that thing. There was a period of my life where I didn't draw. And when I picked up the pencil again just to doodle, you know, if I had stopped drawing when I was 13, for example, and resumed to drawing when I was 17, I'm a 17-year-old drawing like a 13-year-old. I'm not suddenly more amazing because of the years. You pick up where you leave off. So if you're passionate about a thing, but fear gets in your way, self-doubt gets in your way, Well, when you resume that thing because of revived confidence or whatever, you are picking up exactly where you left off. So there's no better way to overcome the fear and the self-doubt than to keep doing it. So I would say just keep at it so you can ultimately be the victor. A piece of advice number one. Number two is, as we've talked about a couple times now, you got to surround yourself with people that will support you. And if you are good at what you do, that support will shroud jealousy. People will project their own envy of your talent with uninvited critique. I've learned that both the easy way and the hard way. Folks that say they're friends that end up just consistently critiquing you or making subtle suggestions about what they think your content should be. And you're only drawing ultimately for yourself. You're only creating what you like ultimately for yourself. You're the first person. You're in the front row, center seat of your own audience. There could be a lot of other people in that auditorium, but you are both there and on the stage. You're both reading the comic as you draw it. So you have to please yourself first and foremost. And then you just surround yourself with that tribe, those people that feel the same way you do. Now, you don't have to have the same exact philosophies, or you don't have to follow the same procedures or practices when you're doing these things. But as long as the through line of support is there, and there is a genuine, constructive conversation about one another's work, again, it's gonna take you a long way. Prioritize the content over your need for community, and the community will come. I think one of the greatest mistakes a lot of young artists make is they do a few great things and it attracts them either into the community or the community envelops them. Then they're lost in the community. They're not developing new content because what's more important is the hanging out. I've just learned not to prioritize the hanging out. That may mean I lose some opportunities, but in the long run, it creates a consistency with my work that I'm proud of. And then again, those folks come to me. I'll say one more thing too. Don't be afraid to make a little bit of money doing the thing you love. Selling things doesn't mean you're selling out. I think that's a very important thing a lot of artists forget. You can give away your books, your work, whatever, as samples. Give people tastes all the time. Like, you could have a Costco Sunday every now and then and give out samples, give away some samples and stuff. And Comic-Con's a great example of that. It is truly a convention. So when folks come to Comic-Con, I'm not surprised when they ask me what on my table is free. Because you go to any other kind of convention, that's still what it is, they're looking for freebies. So I give them a taste. And from there you get the Instagram and Facebook followers, you get the PayPal sales. If you think long-term in that way, again, you're not selling out, you're just eventually selling. And there's really nothing more rewarding than having the money in your pocket so you can keep making that thing.
Awesome! Thank you so much, Russ, for spending your time with this interview and spending so much time highlighting creative, awesome people in Arizona. You are really doing a service to the entire state by letting people know all of the amazing things that are happening and all of the amazing people that are among them. There were a lot of names dropped in this video. I did my very best to include them all in the description below. Are you in there? Check it out. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. As always, subscribe for good times and hit the bell notification so you never miss a video. And while you're in that subscribing mood, subscribe to Casbro Productions. That is super cool stuff. And remember, if you're creative, you are courageous.